I know that everybody's life can get pretty hectic from time to time, but being able to realize that you can't take care of everybody else unless you're, setting aside that time to really take care of yourselves. And in setting aside that time, really being intentional about what self care looks like for you.
Calling all professional neurodiverse mamas seeking to reclaim their time, energy, and focus. I have a special invitation for you. The Simplified Schedules Mini-Course will help you to uncover the top 3 things your neurodiverse brain needs to slay your day and reduce overwhelm instantly. This is the one mini course you need to get your life together without quitting your job or leaving your family. You'll also be able to leave this course with an actionable plan to create that flow and freedom you so desperately deserve. So if you're ready to learn, take action, and create flow, then you can learn more at thecharmedlife.me/simplified me. Make sure to download your copy, tell a sister friend, and I'll see you there. Welcome to We Ain't Normal. My name is Charmaine Fuller, and I'm an everyday mom sharing how I navigate my ADHD brain. Each week, we share tools, inspiration, and resources to help you uncover how to reclaim your time, energy, and focus. So thanks for hanging out with me today. Now on to our show. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the We Ain't Normal show. Today, I have my girl Sandtrice on here. I just got done working with her on her podcast, Self-Aware and Fucked Up, which is absolutely wonderful. If you haven't jumped over there, talking about some real talk about knowing your shit but not doing your shit. And today we are going to make mental health fun-ish and light-ish. And we're going to talk about how this life area is just so important for you to navigate and move through, and how it relates to the rest of your life. Sandtrice, could you please share with us more about who you are and just share a little bit?
Gotcha. Well, my name is Sandtrice, as you stated, and I am a licensed professional counselor in Georgia. I've been in the helping profession for about 18 years now, and just enjoy working with people, really being able to connect with them and help them through life. I kind of got started in this field. Uh, Being a bad child growing up in LaGrange, Georgia, and kind of seeing the things that were going on around me, I really wanted to be able to help other kids that maybe had gone through similar situations that I experienced growing up. And so I ended up being very interested in psychology from a real young age and went to school, pursued it. And, you know, 18 years or so later, here we are.
Now, I know everybody has their own definition of bad child. What was your definition in a nutshell of bad child, and how did that play out? First that one, and then the follow-up is, how did that play out like in adulthood?
Okay, so bad. When I say bad child, what I mean is like I was a problem child. Like I don't know that it was a movie that came out in the late '80s, early '90s about called Problem Child, but just like a menace to everyone. I was always getting into stuff, fighting in my neighborhood, getting into trouble. Um, I used to curse a lot. I still curse a lot, but I started cursing like, you know, 8 years old, like a sailor. So I was always getting into trouble at home. A lot of rebelliousness due to issues with parents not being involved in my life in a meaningful way at that time. So it was mostly like just taking my aggression out on other people, the people that were in my life to support me, taking my aggression out on them. Um, just being out all times of night, running the streets, just all kind of stuff.
That's kind of like kid stuff. I don't know why that seems so normal, but that
Well, we definitely ain't normal over here. So
no,
just
but
saying.
that level of dysfunction kind of feels like home to me. It's not that I necessarily stayed out. Like I didn't have to stay out at all times of night. My mother worked afternoons and my dad was an alcoholic. So it's like
Mhm.
I could either bring the party to me because he wasn't, present, or I could literally leave and come back and wouldn't nobody
Yeah.
know I was gone.
Well, see, yeah, it was a little bit different for me because I grew up with my great grandmother, and she was well into her 60s at that time, and she did not work. She did not leave the
Oh, so
home.
she
And
was
my
there.
right, and my aunt is a paraplegic, and so like she was in the home, she wasn't going anywhere. So, in order for me to do stuff, I had to go to my one of my best friends at the time house and act like I was spending the night over there, and we would then get in the streets from there because her parents kind of were a little bit more lax than my grandmother and my aunt were.
I am laughing because I know that game. I'm going to stay over at Jackie house. We gonna be there.
Right, right. Not gonna be a Jackie house at all. We gonna be in the streets. So
In the streets. I don't know about you, but as we move into how does that play out? How does that how do those patterns, I'm trying to figure out how to ask this because in my head it's clear. So as we dig into mental health, how did those patterns play out? Because when you're young, they kind of sort of support you where you are. But
hmm.
then as you begin to gain more responsibility, things change. How did that show up for you like in adulthood? Because you just don't change it when you turn 18. Like some of that stuff like carries over.
Yeah, I think I still am a bit of a rebel at heart. I think that if I looked at it from like a diagnostic kind of standpoint, as a kid, I probably would have been diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder. And as an adult, I'm very defiant. I don't like rules. Only in the context in which I have to have rules, which is things like work, my profession, like I have to have rules. But outside of that, it's more so like I don't want like being told what to do. I don't like being confronted with anything that I do wrong. I don't like being held accountable to um to a lot of things in life. So I think it just kind of comes in me acting out in different ways. Um I think more so just within friendships, within marriage, like just not wanting to be told what to do still.
You know, I don't know about you, but definitely for me, even though some of those patterns kind of show up now, I've learned how to temper them in a way, for the most part. I've learned how to temper them in a way that either serves me or I've learned how to pull apart what's really going on versus what that initial thought in my head says. Girl, they being disrespectful. It's time to pull all the way up. And you're like, wait a minute. Wait, are they really being disrespectful? Are they
Right.
asking a question?
Yeah. No. And see, that's how I feel. I feel like, any type of questioning of me, like even going back to like the childhood defensiveness and all of that, like anytime you ask me a question, I feel like you questioning me. I feel like you accusing me. I feel like I'm being interrogated. And so I respond in that way still
Okay.
as an adult.
How do you suggest that how women begin to navigate through that? Because, I mean, let's be honest, the stuff that, for lack of a better word, plagued you as a child doesn't just magically disappear when you get a spouse and possibly some kids and a job. Like that just doesn't disappear. And for me, this is a big part of my life because it's my filter. So, how do they begin to adjust that filter in a way that serves them and not in a way that's continuously pulling them into like crazy?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is just being able to reflect, like, and look at how your relationships are being impacted by your behavior. Like, if you always cutting up, if you always defensive or, looking to get into an argument, it's going to impact the relationships that you have. You're
Right.
going to end up having people leave your life because you're not adjusting or addressing those things that are going on. So a lot of it is just being honest, like taking that step back to say, okay, they say I got an attitude problem. I don't think I got an attitude problem, but everybody keeps telling me that. And so when people keep telling you, I see this in you and this is how you show up with me, you have to be able to really be real with yourself.
Right.
We know when we have an attitude. We know when we have a tone and we're being condescending and, changing our inflection. We know those things. We may not want to acknowledge them, But we have to be able to step back and acknowledge, oh, you know what? Yeah, I do get snappy. I do tend to, go from 0 to 100 like super, super quick, because I realized that things that used to trigger me in a previous relationship or somewhere else in my childhood or in my life, I respond to those things in as if they are present things. So it's really about that awareness of checking in with yourself and being able to be honest about the fact that you're not perfect.
Right. You know, one of the things that I learned in my reflection, I know y'all, honest reflection is not sexy. It don't sound hot. It don't sound like
It ain't cute at all, baby.
it is not cute at all. I learned through my reflection is that a lot of the ways that I was responding to people in my life was out of a form, and we kind of touched on this, out of a form of self-preservation or protecting myself, because
Mhm.
although I wasn't in like a hood environment, or like, it wasn't that dire, but the environments that I placed myself in, and sometimes some of the environments that I was in, I had to be hyper vigilant and always protect myself.
Mm.
And so a lot of the things, like once, you get into a good relationship where you ain't always got to protect yourself, you have
Yeah.
to go, oh, dang, they're actually trying to support me.
Right.
This individual, this human is actually out for my best interest. They're not trying to finesse me. It's just purely they are here.
Right.
I don't have to respond this way anymore. And again, although honest reflection does not sound sexy, I always say, get a journal at the end of the night
Hmm.
and kind of replay your interactions throughout
Mm.
your day. I did that. That was some of the most eye-opening shit ever. I'm like, oh,
I'm sure a lot of people find it hard to journal, but it really is something that can provide a lot of clarity for people, because it forces you to deal with yourself, and it doesn't include anybody else's opinion. It really makes you
right.
look at you. And it's hard to face yourself in the mirror sometimes when you look at some of that stuff that you maybe haven't dealt with, that you need to dive into a little bit deeper.
And don't let the journaling aspect stop you, though. I mean, we got many computers that we carry around and we can do voice audio on. I found too that sometimes saying it out loud really
Mhm.
makes it hit home.
Right.
You say, you like, oh my God, I actually like this sound crazier out loud
Mhm.
than it did when I actually did this. And so don't just let that get you stuck. Saying it doing a voice audio, typing it out. If you want to sit in front of your PC, draw some pictures. I mean, do whatever you need to do, but you
Mhm.
don't have to be stuck into one particular modality of journaling or whatever. But I feel like the point of journaling, let me know your thoughts, is just to get out the
Yeah.
thoughts that are inside of you, to see them outside of yourself. Because when you keep
Right.
them in, it's just, of course, it's swirling around in your head, and it makes sense in your head until you put it out on paper or on audio or whatever. And then you like, oh,
Mm.
that ain't it.
Right. Yeah, I think I find the most interesting things about myself when I really take those moments to reflect. But a lot of us don't really want to sit with ourselves, because if we're really being honest, a lot of us really don't like ourselves.
No, that whole enoughness and worthiness journey is a real struggle bus
Yeah.
issue. Yeah. Yeah. And again, depending on what your belief systems and paradigms were growing up, was what, like, there's so many different factors in it,
Mm.
right? That determine kind of how you show up as an adult until you take those things over and begin to heal them. Like, you're never
Right.
healed. It always kills me when people go, I'm gonna find me somebody that went to therapy and they healed. And I'm like, let me know when you find a completely healed person.
That part.
Like, we all have stuff that is like continuously unfolding, as you think you got one thing down. Like, I thought I had this one thing down until like my kids started to trigger me on something else. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh my God, like, really? Like, I had this one good. Like, why y'all bring up something else? I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely get that. But yeah, that completely healed person, like, I've been in therapy so long, I'm sure my therapist probably ready for me to quit at some point. But like, you never arrive like
No,
at that place of like perfection. It doesn't exist. A lot of
it
it is
doesn't
about
exist.
accepting ourselves as we are, and also being willing to change those things that we don't like about ourselves.
And giving yourself grace in the process.
Right.
Finding the space in the journey is so important. You know, we would love to give you like 3 easy tips that are going to help you to boost your mental health game and, you know, create more flow and less overwhelm in your brain, and to love your family and go around like Snow White with the birds on your hand. But that's not reality.
Exactly. It's a lot
It's
of
not.
work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And in this microwave society, I don't even know if you can say microwave, because I think
Mm,
microwave is too long for some of these folks.
exactly.
But in this Insta society, and looking at all these people lying in their news feeds, talking
Mhm.
about what their life looks like, it makes many of us go, oh my gosh, I'm doing this all wrong. I'm behind, which further impacts anything else we might be going through. And so we then beat ourselves up even more.
Right.
It's just the craziest thing.
Yeah. But that's the thing that a lot of people end up struggling with. Like, we have so many people that try to live up to what they see on social media or what they see celebrities doing, and not realizing that people only post the highlight reel. They don't post what really goes on behind the scenes.
And here's
And
the gag: the algorithm is not going to show the grit, because the algorithm only wants you to really see the light and happy and fun parts.
right. Yeah.
Yep. And getting yourself support.
Yeah.
Like, stop thinking you can do this on your own. What are some of the, besides what we've kind of, because we've touched on a lot of different things, what are some of the ways, like we touched on journaling, but that people can, that women specifically can begin to support themselves with making sure they're putting that space for themselves, creating that space reflect, just to reflect? Like, how can they begin to do that?
Yeah. I think it first starts with being able to set aside time and being intentional about that time that you set aside. I know that everybody's life can get pretty hectic from time to time, but being able to realize that you can't take care of everybody else unless you're setting aside that time to really take care of yourselves. And in setting aside that time, really being intentional about what self-care looks like for you.
Oh,
Some people may look at self-care as going to get a massage here, they're going to get your nails done, but taking that space where it's not like you're not crowded with other people. Like, self-care is not always talking on the phone with a friend. It can be socializing and doing things, but sometimes you just need that pause and that moment to yourself to really be able to connect with yourself. But self-care is a really, really big thing that I think women definitely need to attend to. I recommend like doing kind of an assessment of yourself in the different areas of your life. Like, how are you being fulfilled spiritually? How are you being fulfilled socially, within your job, within motherhood? Like, what are those different areas that you actually need to improve on as it relates to your self-care?
that was a mouthful. Besides being intentional about your time and setting that aside, and then what does self care look like for you? And I think that's where a lot of women get stuck, is because they've never sat down. And, you know, like we talked about earlier, it's just that intention of sitting down and assessing where things are. They hop into what they think self care is, and then they still don't feel fulfilled, but then they never go back and assess what's working. And so they keep doing what's not working over and over again
Yeah.
because they don't feel like they have the time to stop. And then it just keeps rolling.
Yeah.
How can women begin to rally the troops? So if they have loved ones, spouse, kids, not the dog, because dogs don't help. But
Dogs can help, but no. They can't help, but they help you feel better.
they do. How can they begin to open up so that other people can support them, because that's a big thing too, is allowing people that care to support you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it one starts with recognizing that, your tribe is there to support you. They are there to be able to help serve you just like you're there to help serve them. I think one of the biggest struggle that a lot of women have is, they see like asking for help as them being a burden or not wanting to add to someone else's plate. But if someone else has the capacity to help you, being open to that and also seeing yourself as worthy enough to be deserving of help. But the main thing is being able to identify, what do I need? Do
Right.
I need someone to help me pick the kids up from school? Do I need someone that to just talk to or listen to what's going on in my life? Do I need you to, do I need one of the kids to make sure that they clean up the kitchen today or make sure that they pop something in the microwave for themselves that day? But it really is about being clear about what type of help you need. What does it look like? And then being able to communicate what it is you need to those people, because you don't have to do it all by yourself. But sometimes we choose to do everything by ourselves because we feel like, you know we don't want to place our responsibilities or our burdens, and I hate using that word, but we don't want to
Yeah.
place that on other people. So just knowing that the people that love you, they want to help you just as much as you want to help them, and being able to be open enough to be vulnerable to share, I need help. It's okay to need help.
Clear communication, which, ladies, she keeps taking y'all back to that life assessment that you were talking about. Like, and you gave some really good questions about, asking, like, what do I need help with the kids? Where am I, what are some of the, like, what are like your baseline life assessment questions? Like, if they had 3 to 5 questions that they could ask, like in each area of their life to help them get a clearer point of view, what would those be for you?
I would start with, am I fulfilled with my current state of being? Like, am I happy at home? Am I happy at work? Am I happy within my friendships? Like, really just assessing those main core areas of our lives and really looking at what are the needs there. I don't know if this is something that I could send to you and you could kind of share as a link, but I use a self-care assessment with a lot of my clients. That's usually one of the first things that we do because it's so good with helping people really look at those different areas of wellness. So really what
Wow.
it is a wellness check. Like, how am I doing in these different areas in my life? And it's a checklist of different things of, how well do I do in terms of exercise? Am I eating right? Like, it starts with physical, it moves to social, spiritual, but just really being able to look at all of those different areas and assessing, like, okay, well, if I'm not doing okay, what is it that I need to do to adjust in this area? Do I need to commit to exercising 3 days a week? Do I want to eat healthy this many, days out of a month? But really looking at all of those core areas of wellness, because those are the things that keep us healthy.
Yes. You know, the quality of one's life is based upon the quality of questions that one asks herself. And what I what I am discovering, like, I love listening to this because I'm like, you're asking, I'm like, well, am I fulfilled in this area? Like, what does that look like? Like, we don't ask ourselves those questions enough, I think. I think we just go through life going, hey, I'm at work and this is what I like. We just keep doing over and over and over and over and over again with like no regard to how we're feeling in the process. And so, what it sounds like, how I feel about it, is that you're asking me to tap back into how I want things to feel. Are
Mm.
they feeling how I want them to feel, or do I want them to feel another way? Which really makes you ask a different brand of questioning, right? Like, okay, so if it's not feeling the way I want it to feel, how do I get there? Like, what does that look like? And so, yeah, like you didn't need to give 3 to 5 questions. Like that one question takes you down this beautiful rabbit hole of, well, what does this look like? Well, what does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's so important to ask those questions though, and even to take it a step further. I always tell people, like, once you assess what's going on, then you have to create a self-care plan or a life
Right.
plan in order to address it. Because it's one thing to say, hey, this is what I need. But if you're not going to do anything different to be able to move yourself from that place where you currently are, then it's all for naught.
What difference does it make?
Right. It don't matter. I want to eat healthier, but I'm still keep going to Popeyes, and there's nothing wrong with it because I would love some Popeyes right now, actually. But the other side of that is it still won't help you get to the goal that you set if that's a
No.
goal that you have. But the goals have to come from within, and the plan, and it needs to be a realistic plan. Like, don't set yourself
Yes.
up with goals that are not achievable because that's just another reason you give yourself to beat up on yourself because you didn't accomplish something that you set out to do.
Stop giving yourself these 5-year goals when you ain't even did year one.
Right. Start slow, but be intentional.
First 30 days, what am I going to do? And then keep building.
Right.
Okay, this works. I think in this whole boost up your mindset and blah, 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 that particular culture is like, create your dream life.
Mm.
And it's like, okay, if I do my dream life for like 20 years from now, we both going to be sad and depressed because that's not happening next year.
Right.
But I need to
Exactly.
have a plan to get me to my next step. And I think so often we forget the next step because the way the culture has us going is
Mm.
it has us always going for the step beyond the next step.
Right. And that's where a lot of our misery comes in too, because we are a society of people that loves to live in the future. And when
Yep.
you live in the future, you can't enjoy the present and you're robbing yourself. But the other thing about living in the future is it creates anxiety because we're always trying to get to the next place. And then once we get to that next place, we want to go somewhere else. We trying to do the next big thing instead of being able to just stay present and learn to love and live in the present day. Because tomorrow is never promised to any of us. So if you're
No.
living for 20 years from now, how does that impact how you show up today?
Exactly. And could you please, because you have credentials and letters behind your name, could you please debunk for the ladies what being present is and what being present is not? Because I think a lot of people think that being present means that you're just sitting in a field of flowers and you're lying throughout life. And that's not what it is at all.
Yeah. Well, being present, it really is about staying in the moment. It's about if you're sitting down and you're enjoying a meal with your partner, being able to focus on what's going on in the room, being able to focus on just being in that moment with them, not worrying about what you have to do at work tomorrow, not worrying about what you have to do next week, what presentation you have to give. It's about just being able to tune in to the people currently in your life, currently in your present moment, or being able to just tune in to yourself. What are you feeling right now? What are you thinking right now? What can you do right now? Not what do you have to do in the future. It really is about grounding yourself, paying attention to how your body feels. It may be meditation, but it doesn't have to be. It really is just about being able to say, I am in this moment. I choose to be in this moment right now. I'm not going to focus on what's going to happen even 10 minutes from now.
Mm.
I'm going to focus on what's going on with me right now. So you ain't got to go out into a field. You ain't got to go sit out there and meditate in the ground. You can do those things. Grounding is really good, being able to just feel the earth beneath you. That's a great way to stay in the present, but it's not necessary. It really is about training your thoughts to be present focused and not worried about something that has not come just yet.
Whew. That is a mouthful. And that is, for me, that's everything. Like that, being present in the moment is a practice for me
Mm-hmm.
because that's not how I naturally roll. My husband used to tell me, Charmaine, you playing chess and everybody else is just playing checkers. Like you on a
Mm-hmm.
completely different board. Like don't be looking at the 5 to 10 moves ahead. Like, just focus on your next move. I'm like, but I can't focus on my next move. Like, and then so many of these jobs,
Yep.
they celebrate you not being present. They celebrate you hustle and grinding. They celebrate that. And often removes our natural intuitive feeling to just sit in a thing
Yeah.
and just to be with it. And by not sitting in a thing, then you're not dealing with a thing, whatever that thing is for you. And then back to that crazy cycle that we was talking about earlier, where you need to slow down, but you can't slow down,
Mhm.
and just going over and over again.
Yeah.
Sandtrice, this was absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing these pieces with us and helping us to be more intentional. And that being more intentional doesn't mean, if you want to go to an ashram, you can, like you said, but you don't have to get that sense of peace and joy. It's based on, getting clear and communicating with the people around you on what your needs are. And that is some good shit. So before we go, I want to know, what are you reading right now? Audio, video, whatever. However you read, what are you reading?
Well, that's gonna get a little personal. But no, I am currently reading the Seven Principles for Making Marriage Work. It's a guide by Dr. John Gottman. And it is definitely helping me be more present focused in how I show up in my marriage and how I show up with being present focused as well. So
How long have you been married?
3 years.
Girl, I've been married for 20. I'm happy you getting
Mhm.
started on that early. I didn't read, me and my husband didn't read, we didn't read that book until we was like 18, 19 years in.
Wow, wow. Well,
Oh my gosh. So it's good to see that you are doing the work now, because you trust me what I tell you.
mm,
Marriage is wonderful, but it's like having kids. Like, everything you thought was resolved, you
mm.
find out is not really resolved.
Listen. I'm over here struggling this week. Like I almost didn't make it on this call. No, but no, that's where my focus is right now. So a lot of what I'm speaking about is stuff that I'm having to also actively practice and be intentional about living for myself, because I work a lot, and that definitely can impact how
Yes.
I show up. So that's
Yep.
what I'm reading right now.
Yep. And I want to thank you for your transparency on that, because I feel like a lot of women often, not just women, but people in general, when you hear that somebody is a therapist or anything like that, the initial thought is, oh my God, they have it all together. And it's like, no, we're all human. We don't have it all together. We're working just like you are. It's just that my work is not where your work is. I've either been where you are, or I've seen something you haven't seen, or I can see a different point of view because I'm
Yeah,
not you. So that's
right.
what you coming to me for. You're not coming to me to be Jesus. You coming to me to help you to
Exactly.
see a different perspective. And so I want to thank you for giving that piece of transparency and not being all tight-laced about it, because we really need to destigmatize this piece, and going to therapy and being able to use whatever help that you get as a springboard, and not that person as your personal Jesus. Like, they are to use them for what they're supposed to be used for, and
Right.
either move on or move through. Where can they find you in these social media streets?
All right. Well, they can find me on all social media platforms under the handle Tree the LPC, or they can visit the uniquedestiny.org website if they want more information.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much for giving me your energy today, for giving me your time, and for just being fully present. We did good being present, girl. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and it freed you to see your life a bit differently. Make sure to check out those show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's episode with all the important links and resources. If you want weekly exclusive episodes with me personally, make sure to sign up for my Simplify My Life newsletter. I'd love to know what you enjoyed about this episode, so leave a review to let me know how I can continue to support you. So, Mama, I want you to know you're doing much better than you think. You're further than you believe, and you're worthy to have it all. So until next time, stay weird and keep doing you, babe. Coming up next time on the We Ain't Normal show.
I used to be I'm a people pleaser. So I used to be kind of really caught up in I can't leave. I have to take care of my husband and my kids. But once they got a little older, but I reached a point where I was like, my husband deploys.
So much. Yeah. Want more of this episode? Make sure your podcast notifications are on and you're a part of the We Ain't Normal family by going to thecharmedlife.show to get weekly podcast updates and notifications. I'll see you there.